One day, you will wake up and realize that the people you sacrificed your peace for were never thinking about you the way you were thinking about them. That realization hurts. Not because you lost someone, but because you lost yourself trying to keep someone who was already emotionally gone. Listen carefully. Some people enter your life to bring light. Others enter your life to teach you the dangerous cost of attachment. And if you do not learn how to detach from the wrong people, they will slowly drain your confidence, your happiness, your focus, your energy, and eventually your identity. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They knew that attachment is one of the fastest ways to suffer. Because the moment your peace depends on another person's behavior, you are no longer free. So today, we are going to talk about the kind of people you must emotionally detach from before they destroy your inner peace. And trust me, by the end of this video, you will never look at certain relationships the same way again. But before we begin, subscribe to the channel and join this growing community of people choosing strength, peace, and discipline over emotional chaos. Now, let's begin. Detach from people who only remember you when they need something. You know the type. They disappear when your life is falling apart. They ignore your pain. They never ask how you are doing. But the moment they need help, attention, money, comfort, or validation, suddenly they know your number. At first, you excuse it. You tell yourself they are busy. You convince yourself they care deep down. But eventually, reality becomes impossible to ignore. You are not valued. You are being used. There is a difference between being loved and being convenient. A wise person notices the difference early. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that people act according to their nature. Some people are naturally selfish. Some people only take. Some people see kindness as weakness. And the dangerous part is this: the more available you become for selfish people, the more invisible your own needs become. There was a young man who always answered every late-night phone call from his friend. Every crisis. Every problem. Every emotional breakdown. For years, he was there. Then one day, his own father died. And the same friend who expected endless support disappeared completely. No calls. No comfort. No presence. That day changed him forever. Because he finally understood something painful: some people only love the access they have to you, not you yourself. Detach from those people. Not with anger. Not with revenge. But with calm distance. Protect your energy. Detach from people who constantly disrespect you. Respect is not a luxury. It is the foundation of every healthy relationship. Anyone who humiliates you, mocks your dreams, ignores your boundaries, or constantly makes you feel small is teaching you how little they value you. And if you continue accepting it, you are teaching them that they can continue. Stoicism teaches self-respect before external approval. Because the world treats you according to the standards you tolerate. Many people stay attached to disrespect because they fear loneliness. But loneliness is peaceful compared to staying connected to someone who slowly destroys your self-worth. There was a woman who stayed in a relationship for 8 years with someone who insulted her every day. He criticized her appearance, her intelligence, her goals. Whenever she tried to defend herself, he called her too sensitive. And over time, she stopped recognizing herself. One day, while looking into the mirror, she whispered something terrifying: "I miss who I used to be." That is what toxic attachment does. It erases you slowly. The Stoics believed your inner world must never be controlled by another person's cruelty. You cannot stop people from being disrespectful. But you can stop giving them access to your spirit. Detach. Because peace is more valuable than forced connection. Detach from people who manipulate your emotions. Manipulators are dangerous because they rarely look dangerous at first. They know how to guilt trip you. How to confuse you. How to make you question yourself. One moment they praise you. The next moment they punish you with silence. One day they make you feel loved. The next day they make you feel worthless. This emotional instability creates addiction. You become desperate for their approval. Desperate for their attention. And soon, your mood depends entirely on how they treat you. That is slavery disguised as love. Epictetus said that if someone has power over your emotions, they become your master. Think about that carefully. If one text message can ruin your entire day. If one cold response can destroy your peace. If one person controls your emotional state. Then you are no longer emotionally free. There was a businessman who became obsessed with pleasing his partner. Every decision he made depended on her mood. When she smiled, he felt alive. When she ignored him, he felt anxious. Eventually, he lost focus at work. Lost confidence. Lost sleep. Not because she physically harmed him. But because he handed her the keys to his emotional stability. The Stoic path is different. Feel love. Care deeply. But never surrender your inner control. Detach from emotional manipulators before they turn your mind into a prison. Detach from people who envy you in silence. Not everyone clapping for you is happy for you. Some people smile in your face while secretly hoping you fail. They compete with you quietly. They feel uncomfortable when you grow. They disappear when you succeed. And the strange part is, sometimes these people are close friends. Even family. Envy is dangerous because it hides behind fake support. The Stoics warned against surrounding yourself with people whose spirits are poisoned by jealousy. Because eventually, their negativity infects your life too. There was a young creator who finally started succeeding online. At first, his friends celebrated him. But slowly, things changed. They mocked his ambitions. Made sarcastic jokes. Ignored his achievements. About detachment. Most people think detachment is cold. They think it means becoming emotionless. Heartless. Distant from everyone. But Stoicism never taught people to kill their emotions. It taught them not to become controlled by them. There is a difference. A detached person can still love deeply. Still care deeply. Still help others. But they do not lose themselves in the process. That is the balance most people never learn. Because many people were raised to believe sacrifice equals love. So they tolerate disrespect. Neglect. Manipulation. Emotional exhaustion. All because they are terrified of losing someone. But here is the truth nobody says out loud. Sometimes losing them is exactly what saves you. A tree cannot grow if rotten branches keep draining its strength. And your life cannot evolve if toxic attachments keep pulling you backward. There was once a man who stayed loyal to a group of friends for over 10 years. He laughed with them. Supported them. Defended them. But every time he tried to improve his life, they mocked him. When he started reading books, they called him boring. When he started exercising, they laughed at his discipline. When he stopped partying, they accused him of changing. And eventually he realized something painful: they did not want him to grow because his growth reminded them of their own lack of discipline. So he quietly distanced himself. No drama. No speeches. Just distance. Years later, his entire life changed. New mindset. New habits. New opportunities. Because sometimes your future is waiting on the other side of separation. Never underestimate the power of removing the wrong people from your environment. The Stoics believe that who you spend time with shapes your character. If you sit beside angry people long enough, anger enters you. If you sit beside negative people long enough, negativity enters you. If you sit beside weak-minded people long enough, excuses enter you. Energy spreads. That is why protecting your circle is protecting your future. And listen carefully to this part because it may change your life. Not everyone deserves an explanation for your distance. Some people know exactly what they did. You do not owe endless explanations to people who repeatedly ignored your pain. Many people stay trapped because they keep trying to make toxic people understand. But some people understand perfectly. They simply do not care. That is why Stoicism teaches acceptance. Accept reality as it is. Not as you wish it would be. If someone repeatedly disrespects you, believe the pattern. If someone repeatedly lies to you, believe the pattern. If someone repeatedly drains your peace, believe the pattern. Hope is beautiful. But blind hope is dangerous. A wise person pays attention to actions. There was a woman who kept waiting for her partner to become emotionally mature. Years passed. Every argument ended the same way. Broken promises. Temporary change. Then the same toxic behavior returned. One night she sat alone and asked herself a question that changed her life forever. How many more years am I willing to suffer waiting for potential? That question woke her up. Potential means nothing without action. Never attach yourself to who someone could become while ignoring who they consistently are. That mistake destroys years of people's lives. Detach from fantasy. Attach yourself to reality. And understand this clearly. Detachment is not weakness. It is self-respect in its highest form. Because it takes enormous strength to walk away from what your heart still desires. Anyone can stay trapped in familiar pain. It takes courage to choose peace over emotional addiction. That is why so many people return to toxic relationships. Not because they are happy there, but because familiarity feels safer than uncertainty. Human beings become addicted to emotional patterns. Even painful ones. Especially painful ones. The Stoics warned against becoming slaves to emotional impulses. Because emotions without wisdom create suffering. A person who keeps returning to disrespect eventually loses their identity. And once self-respect disappears, peace disappears with it. There was a young athlete who stayed attached to a coach who constantly humiliated him. The coach insulted him publicly. Destroyed his confidence. Made him feel worthless. But the athlete stayed because he believed he needed that coach to succeed. Then one day he left. And something shocking happened. Away from the toxic environment, his confidence returned. His performance improved. His happiness returned. Sometimes the environment is the poison. And you do not realize it until you finally breathe fresh air. Never underestimate how much your environment affects your spirit. The people around you either water your growth or slowly dry out your soul. Choose carefully. Now here is another painful truth. Some people only appreciate your absence after they lose access to you. While you are constantly available, they overlook you. Ignore you. Take you for granted. But the moment you detach, the moment your energy disappears, suddenly they notice your value. This happens because human beings often disrespect what feels guaranteed. That is why boundaries are powerful. Boundaries teach people how to treat you. And sometimes distance teaches people lessons your words never could. But whether they finally understand or not should not control your decision. Because detachment is not about punishing others. It is about protecting yourself. Many people misunderstand this. They think walking away means bitterness. No. True Stoic detachment is peaceful. It says, I release what disturbs my peace. Without hatred. Without revenge. Without emotional chaos. Just clarity. Imagine carrying a heavy stone every single day. At first, you adjust to the pain. You normalize the weight. You convince yourself you can handle it. But the moment you finally put it down, you realize how exhausted you truly were. That is what detachment feels like. Relief. Freedom. Breathing again. And yes, sometimes you will miss people you had to detach from. That is normal. The Stoics never denied human emotion. You may miss their laughter, their voice, the memories, the comfort of familiarity. But missing someone does not always mean they belong in your life. That is an important lesson. A person can be emotionally familiar and still be harmful for your future. Wisdom means recognizing the difference. There was an old man who once said, "Some doors feel painful to close because you spent so much time trying to open them." Think about that deeply. Sometimes attachment survives only because of the effort you invested. Not because the relationship is healthy. People stay attached because they fear their time was wasted. But staying longer only wastes more time. The Stoics believed the present moment matters more than past investment. Do not destroy your future trying to justify your past. If something consistently damages your peace, let it go. And another thing. Never confuse attachment with love. Attachment says, "I need you to feel complete." Love says, "I appreciate you, but I remain whole within myself." Attachment creates fear. Fear of abandonment. Fear of rejection. Fear of loneliness. Love creates freedom. That is why detached people actually love better. Because they do not love from desperation. They love from inner stability. A desperate person becomes controlling, jealous, emotionally reactive. But a peaceful person understands this. No human being can permanently complete another person. You must first become emotionally grounded within yourself. The Stoics practiced this constantly. They trained themselves not to depend entirely on external things for happiness. Because external things always change. People change. Relationships change. Circumstances change. And if your emotional stability depends completely on temporary things, suffering becomes unavoidable. Real power comes from inner control. The kind of control that says, "I will not allow another person's behavior to destroy my peace." That mindset changes everything. Because suddenly you stop begging for attention. Stop chasing validation. Stop tolerating disrespect. You begin choosing yourself. And the moment you truly choose yourself, your entire life shifts. Your standards rise. Your confidence rises. Your peace returns. You stop entertaining confusion. You stop forcing connections. You stop ignoring red flags. You finally understand that protecting your energy is not selfish. It is necessary. There was a young woman who used to answer every message instantly because she feared people losing interest in her. She constantly over-explained herself. Constantly apologized. Constantly tried to keep everyone happy. But inside, she felt exhausted. Then one day she discovered Stoic philosophy. And one sentence changed her life: you do not control whether people stay. You only control whether you abandon yourself trying to keep them. That sentence freed her. Because many people lose themselves attempting to avoid abandonment. But abandoning yourself is far more dangerous than being abandoned by others. Never betray your own peace to maintain temporary connection. And if someone walks away because you finally developed boundaries, let them walk. The right people will respect your growth. Remember this always. Your life becomes lighter when you stop forcing what no longer fits your spirit. Some relationships expire. Some friendships expire. Some connections are only meant for a season. And maturity means accepting that without bitterness. Not everyone is meant to travel with you forever. Some people are lessons disguised as relationships. Some people enter your life to teach you self-respect. Some teach you boundaries. Some teach you emotional discipline. Even painful experiences carry wisdom. The Stoics believed every hardship contains a lesson if you are willing to see it clearly. So instead of asking, "Why did this person hurt me?" ask, "What did this experience teach me?" That question transforms pain into wisdom. And wisdom is powerful. Because once you truly learn the lesson, you stop repeating the cycle. You stop attaching yourself to emotionally unavailable people. You stop chasing people who constantly disrespect you. You stop shrinking yourself for acceptance. You evolve. And evolution requires separation. A snake cannot grow without shedding old skin. Likewise, you cannot become stronger while clinging to toxic attachments. Growth demands release. That is why your next chapter may require distance from certain people. Not because you hate them, but because you finally love yourself enough to protect your peace. And maybe that is what you needed to hear today. Maybe you have been holding on to someone who continuously drains your spirit. Maybe you have been tolerating disrespect because you fear loneliness. Maybe you have been confusing emotional attachment with genuine love. But listen carefully. You deserve peace. You deserve clarity. You deserve relationships that do not require self-destruction. Never forget that. And the strongest thing you can sometimes say is, this connection no longer deserves access to my energy. No shouting. No revenge. No hate. Just calm detachment. That is Stoic strength. So from this moment forward, stop chasing people who make you question your value. Stop begging for consistency. Stop tolerating emotional chaos. Stop attaching your happiness to unstable people. Protect your mind like your future depends on it. Because it does. And one day, after choosing peace over toxic attachment, you will wake up feeling lighter. Calmer. Stronger. And for the first time in a long time. And before this video ends, there is one final truth you need to hear. Detachment is not something you do once. It is a discipline. Because life will continuously test your emotional strength. People from your past may return. Old memories may resurface. Loneliness may tempt you to reconnect with those who once broke your peace. And in those moments, you must remember why you walked away in the first place. Many people heal, then reopen the same door that destroyed them. Not because the situation changed, but because time made them forget the pain. That is why wisdom matters. The Stoics constantly reflected on reality so they would not become prisoners of temporary emotions. Because emotions can lie. Loneliness can make toxic people look attractive again. Nostalgia can make painful memories seem beautiful. Attachment can make disrespect feel normal. But clarity changes everything. A wise person remembers patterns, not just feelings. There was a man who finally escaped a toxic relationship after years of emotional exhaustion. At first, he felt peace. Then came loneliness. He started remembering the good moments. The laughter. The affection. The memories. And slowly, he convinced himself, maybe it wasn't that bad. So he returned. And within weeks, the same pain returned too. The same manipulation. The same disrespect. The same emotional chaos. That experience taught him something powerful. Missing someone is not always a sign you should reconnect. Sometimes it is simply part of withdrawal from emotional attachment. Healing requires patience. Do not confuse temporary loneliness with making the wrong decision. Some forms of loneliness are actually signs of growth. Because when you detach from unhealthy people, there will be empty space in your life for a while. And many people rush to fill that space immediately because silence makes them uncomfortable. But silence is necessary. The Stoics valued solitude because solitude reveals who you are without distraction. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, validation, and emotional dependency, you lose connection with yourself. Detachment gives you the opportunity to rediscover your own mind. Your own values. Your own direction. Your own strength. And that process is beautiful. There was once a woman who spent her entire adult life in relationships. From one connection to another. Always attached. Always emotionally dependent on someone. Then one day, after another painful breakup, she decided to stay alone for a while. At first, she hated it. The silence felt uncomfortable. The empty house felt heavy. But gradually, something changed. She started reading again. Started walking peacefully in the mornings. Started reconnecting with dreams she abandoned years ago. And for the first time in her life, she realized something shocking: she had spent years searching for herself inside other people. That realization transformed her. Because true peace begins when you stop needing others to complete you. The Stoics understood this deeply. They trained themselves to remain emotionally grounded even when life changed unexpectedly. Not because they hated people, but because they understood the temporary nature of everything external. Nothing lasts forever. Not youth. Not money. Not relationships. Not approval. Everything changes. And when you accept this truth, attachment loosens its grip on your heart. You begin appreciating people without clinging to them. That is emotional maturity. To love without possession. To care without dependency. To connect without losing yourself. Most people never reach this level because fear controls them. Fear of being alone. Fear of rejection. Fear of abandonment. So they tolerate almost anything just to avoid separation. But Stoicism teaches something different. It teaches that being alone with peace is infinitely better than being surrounded by people who poison your spirit. Never fear solitude. Fear losing yourself. Fear waking up one day realizing you spent years betraying your own needs just to keep unhealthy connections alive. That regret destroys many people. There was an elderly man sitting alone in a park one evening. A younger man asked him, "What is the biggest mistake you made in life?" The old man stayed silent for a moment before answering, "I stayed too long in places where my soul was unhappy." That answer contains enormous wisdom. Many people delay detachment because they hope things will magically improve. But time alone changes nothing. Without honesty, accountability, and mutual respect, unhealthy patterns repeat endlessly. And every extra year spent in emotional suffering is a year stolen from your peace. Life is shorter than people realize. One day, all the stress, drama, chasing, and emotional exhaustion will mean nothing. What will matter is how peacefully you lived. How authentically you lived. How much self-respect you carried through life. That is why you must become protective of your inner world. Your mind is sacred. Do not allow every person access to it. Not everyone deserves your vulnerability. Not everyone deserves your loyalty. Not everyone deserves unlimited chances. The Stoics believed wisdom includes knowing where to invest emotional energy. Because energy is limited. And every moment spent on toxic attachment is energy removed from your goals, your healing, your future, and your purpose. Imagine watering dead plants every single day while ignoring the healthy seeds waiting to grow around you. That is what many people do emotionally. They keep investing in relationships that continuously damage them while neglecting their own potential. Detach. And redirect your energy toward growth. Toward discipline. Toward peace. Toward purpose. Because once your energy returns to yourself, transformation begins. You start thinking clearly again. Sleeping peacefully again. Smiling genuinely again. Your confidence slowly rebuilds itself. And suddenly you realize something incredible. The peace you were searching for in other people was always meant to be built within yourself. That realization changes your entire life. Because now your happiness is no longer controlled by who texts you back. Who validates you. Who stays. Who leaves. You become emotionally stable. And emotional stability is power. A calm mind makes better decisions. A peaceful spirit attracts healthier relationships. A disciplined person no longer tolerates chaos. That is why detachment often upgrades your entire life. You become more focused. more confident, more selective. You stop entertaining confusion. You stop forcing conversations that feel one-sided. You stop chasing people who give mixed signals. You stop lowering your standards just to avoid loneliness. You finally understand your value. And once a person truly understands their value, toxic relationships lose their power. Because desperation disappears. There is a quiet confidence that comes with emotional independence. You walk differently. Think differently. React differently. You no longer panic when people leave. Because you know this truth, anyone willing to destroy your peace was never truly meant to stay permanently. That mindset is freedom. Now listen carefully to this final lesson. Some people will call your detachment cold. Some people will accuse you of changing. Of becoming distant. Of acting differently. But growth always looks strange to people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Never feel guilty for protecting your peace. Never apologize for choosing emotional stability over chaos. You are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. Read that again in your mind. You are not required to destroy your mental health just to make unhealthy people comfortable. The Stoics believed self-mastery is one of the highest forms of strength. And self-mastery includes knowing when to walk away. Not every battle deserves your energy. Not every argument deserves your response. Not every person deserves continued access to your life. Sometimes silence is strength. Sometimes distance is wisdom. And sometimes detachment is survival. So if you are standing at a crossroads right now, unsure whether to finally let go of someone who keeps disturbing your peace, take this message as confirmation. Your future self will thank you for choosing peace now instead of prolonged suffering later. Because one day, you will look back and realize the moment you detached from toxic people was the moment your real life began. The moment clarity returned. The moment confidence returned. The moment your spirit could finally breathe again. And perhaps the greatest reward of detachment is this. You finally meet yourself again. The version of you buried beneath anxiety. Beneath people-pleasing. Beneath emotional exhaustion. The real you. Calm. Focused. Strong. Free. That version has been waiting for you all along. So walk away from what continuously destroys your peace. Not with bitterness. Not with hatred. But with wisdom. With dignity. With self-respect. And never forget this powerful Stoic truth. The quality of your life depends greatly on the quality of the people you allow close to your mind and heart. Choose wisely. Protect your peace fiercely. And never be afraid to detach from anything that costs you your soul. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel for more deep Stoic lessons on emotional control, discipline, mental strength, and inner peace. Your strongest chapter begins the moment you stop begging for love and start protecting your spirit.